have a quorum, and it's 5:30, so the Oconee County Public Library Board of Trustees meetings for July 22nd, 2025 is called to order. You've read the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections? Do we have a motion to approve? And we had a second?
Second.
Who's our motion? Kay?
Motion's
Andy
carried.
got a second.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay. We have public comment time. Please limit that to 4 minutes. No public comment. Okay, at this time, we'd like to introduce our new Library Resources Associate, and that is Carrie Leeper Brock.
I'm not so new. My title's new. I've been here 3 years, so, excuse me. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me. I think Blair just wanted me to come talk about a little bit about what I do and why I do it and why the library has me on staff. I hate to have my back to y'all, sorry about that, but, why does a library system need a social worker? I think before you can ask that question, you need to go back, I guess, even and look at why, what does a library do and what is the purpose of the library? I think in our book, it says our mission is to connect our communities with resources that enrich, enlighten, and entertain. So I don't think I fit the entertainment part too much, but the other two, I think I can claim enriching and enlightening, I think. So when people come to Oconee County, or when people live in Oconee County, where do they find out what they need? Do they go to City Hall, or do they go to the library, or do they go to the school district, or where do they find out information that they need for their lives? There's lots of places. I do think the library is somewhere that a lot of people go to when they first move here, or if they don't have internet, or if they're looking for resources, and most people think of written resources for the library, and that's certainly true. But we have a lot of other resources too. I'm sure y'all have heard about like Library of Things and our state park passes and all those kinds of things that we have that are kind of outside of the ordinary of just checking out books. So I think of our library system as a hub for the community. I don't know if y'all know how much goes on there, but like when I was leaving just now, Cafe is there. That's Clemson Area Food Exchange. And they are there every week because that's one of the pickup points in Oconee County for people to pick up their fresh produce from Cafe. And we are now in a partnership as of a few months ago with the Golden Corner Food Pantry, and their excess bread, they were having bread that was going bad, and they wanted distribution points throughout the county. So we now have all 4 of our branches every week get 10, 15 loaves of bread, and it's first come, first served. We put them in our lobby or some visible place, and people pick those up. Sometimes people want to have a resource table in our front area here in Walhalla, or maybe even in Seneca towards the front of the room or in the meeting room. Tomasi DAR, Tomasi First Light program does that. I know that the drug and alcohol system through the state has done that in the past. Other federally qualified health clinics have done that sort of thing. So we have had in the last 2 months, or last 3 months, I guess, the South Carolina Office of Resilience has been in our library here in Walhalla, and they're coming back, I think, next month. And they're following up from Hurricane Helene. They're not FEMA, but they kind of do what FEMA does on the state level, and they come in and they help people try to find resources following a disaster like that. So all these things kind of go on anyway. It's not always very well known or sometimes not well publicized, and probably needs to be better publicized. The first time SCORE came, almost nobody came by, and the second time we were able to get it in the paper and send out some emails to some folks to make sure that people knew they were coming so they could come up there, and we had a lot more people come. So those kinds of things are important. But we really, I think, fit a need in the community. And so my job at the present is funded through the, out of the University of South Carolina from the Center of Rural and Primary Health Care. And they saw a need for social workers or community health workers in rural libraries. And so they came up with this grant program that funded up to 4 years of having a social worker in a rural library to try to get those services. And I think that the main reasons to do that is, in their minds, was health care. And this is coming out of COVID. So this was a time when they thought this was a good time to get community health workers or social workers in the library where if there were questions about health care particularly, maybe the social worker could connect people with those resources. So that's kind of been my focus, is health and mental health. Also kind of social service agencies, but connecting people with those resources. So library staff are very resourceful, and if somebody comes in and asks them a question, they're pretty good at finding something, a website, a book, something. But they can't really spend time. They can't help somebody do an application that's going to take 60 minutes or longer. They can't help somebody who maybe finds the website but then really doesn't know how to navigate from there. Or maybe doesn't have phone service to call those people. Or somebody needs to follow up afterwards to say, did you get what you needed, or are you still looking for something that you need? They don't have time to advocate on behalf of those people. So I think of some of those things as my role, or my, what I should be doing to help people. And they don't have, library staff don't really have a place to keep any notes on people. So like, we have connected with a group called Unite Us, which is an online referral service and kind of a place where you can keep notes, like case notes. So it's very helpful to have something like that where you can kind of say, I met this person before, what did I do with them? You can go back and you can look and see what you did. And then it's also a way that if other local social service agencies or healthcare or whoever are also part of Unite Us, you can refer directly in a closed loop referral to Unite Us. And library staff may not have the contacts particularly with local social service agencies or healthcare agencies. I don't always either, but sometimes I do. At least I try to, or at least even if I don't maybe necessarily know somebody very well, I usually know a name or can try to hopefully connect them with a person, not just with an agency. So I try to do that. I would say that the majority, maybe not the majority of my time, but a lot of my time is spent with individuals or families trying to help them navigate applications or trying to refer them to services, and sometimes just helping them figure out what to do or what the next step is. So that's a lot of what we do. I plan and promote health programming in the libraries. So it could be anything from CPR or mindfulness or sleep, or it might not be health related. A lot of stuff I'll do will be mental health related, or it'll be kind of general wellness related, something like sleep or mindfulness. We've had self-defense courses, we've had suicide awareness kinds of things. For a while, I was the one that was kind of coordinating the law talks. I don't know if y'all know, but Legal Services of South Carolina provide law talks out in the counties when usually local attorneys will staff those. So I'll do anything if I can figure out a program. A lot of times I'll base my programs, and sometimes I do the displays, and I know y'all see my reports every time you meet. I usually try to figure out a way to base it on something that's going on. So if this month is National Suicide Awareness Month, then that's what I choose to, to put an emphasis on for that month. Sometimes especially in the summer, there's not really good ones in June and July, so sometimes I'll just come up with what do I think is timely, or what do I think is, we haven't done in a while, or haven't done at all, and I'll put out books and pamphlets and whatever, and usually try to get a speaker to do some sort of programming. So the other thing that I do is try to identify gaps in services in the local area. That usually comes about by somebody asking me something, like, hey, where can I find such and such? So if I identify those gaps, sometimes we're able to figure out a way to do something to fill in the gaps, which is one of the things that we've done with the showers. Somebody asked us, where can somebody that doesn't have access to running water go take a shower? And it was like, well, I called the Y, I called some churches that I thought had gyms, and nobody seemed to have any sort of program or anything in place to let people do that. So I found out from a local guy that kind of knows a lot of what's going on in the community, and he said, hey, Catholic Charities has a trailer, why don't you see if they'll bring it down? So we ended up talking with them, and after about 6 months of planning and talking to Our Daily Bread, we store the trailer there. We access the trailer there every 2 weeks. We use their water, their sewer, their electric that they provide us, and we hook up and provide usually about 15 showers every time we go out there to people that are homeless, or maybe wherever they're staying just does not have running water. So in the past, we also had a grant that covered some transportation to mental health and healthcare appointments. We kind of did that as a pilot project. It was a Center for Rural and Primary Health Care grant as well, to kind of try to see how much need there was out there, that sort of thing, and to see if that was something that maybe needed to be an ongoing sort of thing. The other thing that we try to do is partner, so we're partnering with Our Daily Bread and Catholic Charities to provide those showers, or Blair and I both attend the Healthy Oconee Coalition with other agencies to talk about what are the health needs in Oconee County. If I can, I try to go to the Chamber of Commerce nonprofit group meeting, or when United Way has some meetings with other agencies, I try to go to those to network and figure out what's going on in the county and be able to provide, opportunities for people to figure out where they need to go to get what. So that's sort of what I do. I don't want to go on. I've talked enough, but if you all have questions, I'm glad to answer any questions about what I do, how I spend my time. I usually work about 20 to 25 hours a week. Right now, the grant covers that through next June, end of June.
What are your busy times of the year? Is it cold weather or hot weather?
I don't know that I've noticed a particular time that's busier than another, or at least I haven't noticed a pattern. Yes.
I don't have a question, but I do have a compliment. I had the pleasure of working with some people that you helped in the past, and they were very grateful for resources that you helped provide them. So
Good.
I think you're doing a fantastic job. Thank
Well,
you.
that's good to hear. It's gratifying to know sometimes that the word is getting out, or that people have gotten help, so that's
We're in a tight
good to know.
space, and you helped them.
Okay, good, thank you.
Carrie, I just happened to be there at the Friends of the Library meeting the other day when you were speaking to them. I know that they provide some funding for you
They
as
do.
well. And you handed out that sheet that
Right.
talked about where you were handing the money and who you were giving it to. It was really pitiful, some of those cases. People living in tents and
Right,
everything else. So, you're kind of like what we in the military call a duty officer, where we would handle, the plane crashes and the emergencies when they happen. Sometimes nothing happened all day, but, so they don't make appointments to come see you. These are people at crisis coming to see you, or?
so So I have set hours, so Tuesday afternoons I'm in Westminster, Wednesday afternoons I'm in Seneca, and Thursday afternoons I'm in Walhalla. And then once a month on a Monday, I go to Salem. So, and that's on our, on all our social media, and try to have that information out so people know those are the times that I'm in those places. But also if they call us, we have a form on our website that they can send in, an electronic form they can send in. If they call, I can make appointments according to what is good for them and where is good for them. So, but we do have walk-ins too. So it kind of is both and, it's like whatever is needed, maybe like a duty officer, I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, that confused me, because I thought, I was trying to figure out, like, how they got hold of you. So it's social media generally, or is it word of mouth, or?
So, yeah, if you look on our webpage, I'm listed, or not me particularly, but our community service resource program is listed on there, and there's like I said, there's an electronic form you can send in, or there's a phone number. Over the past 3 years, I've given out lots of cards to other agencies and just to individuals. So a lot of people, I think, by now know that I'm out there. Initially, nobody knew I was here or probably understood what I did. But I think, at least among social service agencies and a lot of healthcare providers, mental health care, behavioral health care providers, I'm more of a known entity now.
Okay, last question, sorry. I'm just curious, because we were all like, what is the social worker doing at the library? And I know that is actually a thing now, because I saw Richland has one as well. I know you're gonna tell me there's a benefit, because it sounds like you're doing a lot for the library as well, with Cinco de Mayo and really helping out with resource work. That's why we wanted to change that title. But why are they coming to the library for those things versus, let's say, going to DSS or what is the dynamic there? I was trying to understand that.
Well, so if you go to DSS, they can help you, with your SNAP application. You go to DHHS, they can help you with your Medicaid application, or they can give you one. I don't know that they really actually sit down and help you fill it out. A lot of people have trouble with a lot of applications. I don't know if y'all have seen applications, but I have a master's degree, and sometimes I'm like, what? So, if I was a high school graduate or not a high school graduate, I don't know how I would ever figure anything out. So, sometimes that is what we do, is help people fill out applications. But there is no centralized place that does, I don't think, what I do. I think, if you go somewhere, somebody might be willing to help you do something one time. If you asked them, if you went to United Way, maybe they would help you do something like that. But there's really not a place to go to get somebody to just help you, or to even figure out, where do I go to do these things? So that's kind of the gap I'm trying to fill, or the need I'm trying to fill. And one of the things that I didn't say is that I do have a lady that works with me who is a Spanish interpreter. She's a certified healthcare Spanish interpreter, and she works on Thursday afternoons with us in Walhalla, and then once a month goes with me to Seneca, so that if people come in and don't speak English or don't speak a lot of English, or not comfortable in English, she can help translate and do that. We do that a good bit. And we got a real bonus when we got her, because she's also a certified yoga teacher, and she also has a therapy dog. So we've used her for all kinds of stuff, but so it's been very helpful to have her.
Thank you.
Certainly appreciate you coming and telling us, because Blair's tried to tell us that we are not the libraries of our grandparents anymore. Well, I think so for someone a little bit totally different than what we grew up with.
Sure.
We appreciate your time and coming in to tell us, because I personally, I don't understand what she does. So we appreciate you very much coming in and explaining everything. And it sounds like you're very busy.
I am, and I, like you, until I've pretty much done hospice social work most of my career. So I kind of, when I saw this position advertised, I was like, that sounds really interesting. I'll tell you, as a child, I wanted to be a librarian because I thought they read all the time. So I was like, oh, I could go do social work at the library. This is my dream job. And it really has turned out to be my dream job. I really enjoy it, and I think it's a great service. And I wish all counties, especially rural counties, but all the counties in South Carolina had a social worker.
That was my other question. Is it mostly just rural counties that have the, not social work anymore, but the library resource people, as opposed to maybe the bigger cities that have more help for people that come to you? Is it more rural, or is it more,
I don't
or
know.
is it growing?
Yeah, outside of South Carolina, I'm not really sure. I do know I had somebody call me wanting help from the Oconee County Library, and I figured out they were actually from Oconee County, Georgia. So, but fortunately, Athens Library does have a social worker, I found out, and I didn't know that, so I was like, yay. I think it's mostly been bigger library systems like Charleston or Columbia or Dallas or, some big city that have had social workers who are like even behind a desk and they have hours and that sort of thing where people can walk in off the street and they'll help them kind of thing. But I'm hoping it's an upward trend. So in South Carolina, there's been about eight different rural counties that have participated in this program and hired social workers or community health workers to fill that role. But, that money's pretty limited. So, if most libraries don't have extra money to hire somebody like that particularly in a rural setting, I would guess. That's why the bigger libraries, I guess, can afford it. That's why they have them. I'm going to my first social workers in library conference in October, so I'll be interested to hear more of who has them and where they need. I mean, I feel like they need them everywhere, but who has them and who needs them and that sort of thing.
I will say some of your larger counties like Richland, Columbia area, Charleston, these others that obviously they have a much larger population and they do a lot more money. They've done this really for years. I would say Richland's probably had one going on at least 15 now, and they have somebody on staff. They also have a nurse on staff, honestly. Richland has a nurse on staff that can give immunizations, can do all these other kind of things. I mean, that question that you asked Carrie about, like, why us instead of DSS or somewhere else, a lot of times people don't even know which agency to start with, where to go. I'm homeless. Do I start with, somebody that's going to pay me? Do I start with housing? Do I start with, well, in the meantime, I've gotten sick. Where do I even go? And, we like to still think that when people, have needs or questions, they come to the library. And now instead of just being able to have a website or two, or have maybe somebody on staff who's experienced that before so they can sort of maybe a little more definitively give an answer, we have a professional.
I just wanted to say, I thank you for what you do for our library. Thank you for what you're doing for Oconee County. And I just think it's a very important need. And everyone that I have spoken to or seen that has interacted, with the social system in this country, they need guidance and they need help. And the fact that you're able to provide that, I think, is an invaluable resource. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we expect the grant to be continued?
We don't. So it was extended, or originally it was 2 years, right? And it was extended to the 4. And I guess that could happen again, but we don't anticipate that it will, or we're not planning for that. So, and Blair all along has been making sure that the county knows that we'd like this to continue after the grant is over, and, that we want the funding to be there. I don't think we're a very expensive program because I'm part-time and Amy is the Spanish translator is very, very part-time. We're hoping that they're really willing to take on the cost of this program. So keep your fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Director Henson give us our Friends of the Library report.
Friends of the Library report, the amounts of the sales were in the background information that I gave you all. They made right around $5,000 in May, and then blew that out of the water in June, $5,830. We have a gold mine in our basement, folks. We really do. I've got folks down there that are virtually printing money. Not really, Internal Revenue Service or Secret Service, sorry, Secret Service, not really. They write us a check every 6 months for half of what they make, just that's off the top, and then they do fund a lot of other things that I have told you all about in the past. They funded $4,400, I believe, for summer reading this year, $4,000 for the kids, $400 for the adult summer reading prizes, that sort of thing. They funded $6,000 worth of wish list, $1,500 per branch, and then pretty much whatever the bookmobile might need, but it goes to the branches. They just wrote us a 6-month check at the end of June for $14,000. That goes in our gifts account. We can use it for whatever we need that isn't already covered by a line item, either in state aid or in our local funding, which of course we'll get to that a little bit later in the agenda. So whatever else that we need, programs, supplies, the food for our reception yesterday for the dedication to the room that we built in Walhalla for Mariah McCauley, any of that kind of stuff, that's what we get from the Friends. And so, I mean, what they made just at Books on the Alley, I mean, that's almost like a Christmas time amount for them. I mean, I don't know what happened in June. Now, they did have a Saturday sale, so that provided one additional opportunity. I don't know what happened in June, but I mean, they hit it out of the park. So, you know, if you ever want to come see, or if you haven't ever come seen their operation down in the basement, I would definitely encourage it, because essentially we have a library on the upper floor and a bookstore, like the Books A Million, on the bottom floor. They've got 2 large rooms down there, plus a sorting room. One whole room is nothing but fiction. These are a combination of donations, which I think I've explained before, and library discards. Okay, they call that, they go through, they pick the best. They're anywhere from $1 to $5, most of them. I mean, they have a few antiques and things that they do get, you know, a little better price for, but most of the, like, newer fiction, nonfiction, $4 or $5 maybe. Some of the older stuff, $1. Paperbacks, 50 cents, 25 cents, that kind of thing. They have DVDs, they have puzzles. We get donations of puzzles, a lot of them. We also do a puzzle swap several times a year at the library on our level, but down below they sell puzzles as well. They have a little bit of everything. And quite honestly, we've even been to the point sometimes where we had surplus supplies for a particular program or whatever that we knew we were never gonna be able to use again, and we've sold them through the Friends and made more money off of them. So, yeah, it's a wonderful operation. If you ever get a chance to come, they will have a Saturday sale in September. I think it's the 20th of September, so if you can't come during the week, they will have a Saturday sale. That's 9 to 12:30, I think, on the 20th of September. I think that's also the day of our Hispanic Heritage Festival, so come to town, go to the sale, and then come on over and, you know, get some tamales. Very cool. But yeah, as far as the Friends report, we did dedicate the Mariah McCauley room yesterday. She, as I have mentioned, I think previously, was a longtime friend of the library, was also on the library board, was also involved at the state level, was on the state library board. And so we had the dedication of the small conference room there in Walhalla yesterday. And her daughter was able to come, and her daughter's husband was able to come. Sadly, the judge was not able to come, and his son Alex had something that he was called away for at the last minute as well. but we did have some family there. The friends of the library were there. They had given a large amount of the funding for the furniture. Initially, the room itself was funded mainly by donations that were given to the library and to the Friends in her memory. And then the Friends came along and funded the additional part of the furniture and things to kind of get us over the top. So that room is now going to be in operation. It'll be a small 12 to 15 person conference room. Has really nice tables, chairs and stuff, very modular that we can move stuff around. And had a really nice dedication yesterday for that. And they'll continue to help us with projects like that. There'll be some things down the road. I mean, our spaces, and when we get to the strategic plan part, we'll talk a little bit about that, but our spaces are such that we really aren't ever gonna be able to expand the footprint of the building more than likely. Maybe some year we'll get a new building in Seneca and some other places, but in the meantime, making the best of what we have and trying to improve those spaces, and the Friends are 100% behind that. And they will probably be one of my primary sources for funding to get that done. So that they are going along great, and it's a good organization. They're always looking for volunteers, but I mean, they have a well-oiled machine down there. I think that, they're very dedicated for us and for what they do, and to make sure that we have what we need.
It's fantastic. Okay, moving along to committee reports, do we have a finance committee report? Policy and personnel? No. Building and grounds. Community relations, I think, has a report.
Yes, we had a meeting. We'll have the minutes available at the next meeting to approve. In attendance were Director Blair Henson, Kim Jackson, Judy Adams, and Mandy Ellis. The first thing we discussed was library safety for children and parents. And the attendees viewed the video Megan's Story, which highlighted the risks of explicit content available to teens. We looked at this, it's kind of been in the news lately, and we all know that children and teens are in a formative stage where exposure to sexually explicit content can distort their understanding of healthy relationships and sexuality. And research shows that early sexualization correlates with higher rates of depression, anxiety, and reckless behavior. So the committee agreed that, with actually a proviso, that locating explicit materials in adult sections with optional parental consent for teen access respects both parental rights and community expectations while preserving intellectual freedom. We believe that Oconee County Library has done an excellent job overall in protecting the innocence and the mental wellness of South Carolina children. Additionally, since parents have the primary responsibility to guide their children's exposure to sensitive topics, the committee recommended publishing curated book review resources to assist parents in selecting age-appropriate material. So I haven't handed them out, but I will provide examples for board members to review and discuss before the next meeting. And that might be our new business at the next meeting, to maybe vote on curating some type of materials. I know Blair's main concern was he did not want to add to the workload of the staff, especially when we were short the youth services director. We also discussed the meeting room use, because I got very excited about that in the spring, and we discussed promoting additional volunteer-led adult education programs in the community, and plans for expanding the homeschooling programming, and our new youth services director is a former homeschooler, so those are some of our biggest clients. We talked about social worker availability and advocacy. We didn't really know who she was. It was recommended that she come to a future board meeting, and he took that for action, because here she was tonight. It was extremely helpful, thank you. Fundraising, we discussed historical and prospective donors in anticipation of future library expansion needs, particularly Seneca Library. And you're gonna get to that in a minute, but they blew even Walhalla out of the water as far as visits this month and new library cards. And then Friends of the Library meeting, we agreed a board representative should attend Friends of the Library meetings regularly. I volunteered to be the first one, so I was able to actually see a detailed list, client list that Carrie put out there, which was very helpful. But also that day alone, just that day alone, they made $1,500 that morning. And it's been a big, big month. You're gonna be more excited than June. So they were just all over it. And by the way, they had that meeting It ran like clockwork. I said, you need to teach a class on this. So anyway, and then we adjourned. So, one last thing.
The
Kay
Friends.
happened to be at the Friends dedication and said she would actually like to be the board liaison to the Friends of the Library, so we don't all have to take turns going. She'd really like to do that.
Terrific.
So, but as far as the parental resources, I'll give you something that I thought might be a good example of that, and then we could discuss that at the next meeting.
There's no chair's report today. Director's report?
Okay. So I just wanted to capture that note about KB and the liaison to the Friends. I'll keep it very short because most of what we need to discuss will be bullet items in the agenda. But we do have our youth services librarian now. I think I've told most of you. Emily Johnson, our new youth services librarian, she started last Monday, the 14th. And so, she's getting her baptism, trial by fire, if you will, with the last 2 weeks of summer reading. She was there for our program that we did with the Riverbank Zoo from Columbia, Zoo of the Arts from Columbia. Had a big turnout for that. We had to move that one from the Performing Arts Center to the Walhalla Library because of the way that it was expected to be set up. They set up various stations and had the kids actually do hands-on activities. It wasn't really appropriate for an auditorium setting, so we talked to them about it and got it moved over to the Walhalla Library. Probably didn't have as big a crowd as we may have if they'd have brought live animals and we were over at the Performing Arts Center, but this program in particular was talking about animal camouflage and that kind of thing to go along with the summer reading theme, Color Our World. And so they came and did, and we still had probably 100 crammed into the back of the Walhalla Library. But the kids had a ball. We had a lot of good, it was probably one of the biggest ones they've done, actually, because they usually do go to the smaller branches and do these programs and everything. And so this one was at the headquarters library with 100 kids and adults. So I think everyone had a good time, though. Certainly left happy. A lot of them had little clings that they had colored of various animals and things, butterflies and stuff. So really pretty stuff. They had brought animal pelts for the kids to touch, and they had brought all kinds of different exercises for them to do. And so they got to go to various stations. One was packing the meal for a gorilla, so there was vegetables and all kinds of stuff. They could pack a bag or a basket, that kind of thing. So learned a lot of different, things about how animals use color to either defend themselves or announce themselves or mate or, whatever it is kind of thing. But so that program went very well. Our final program is this Friday. It'll be the end of summer bash at South Cove. We know the sheriff's department is coming. They're gonna have, I won't give it away, but they're gonna have some cool stuff. I'll put it that way. We're gonna have Kona Ice out there. The bookmobile will be there. The Friends will also be there. They're gonna be giving away books. We're gonna have First Steps, so Coney First Steps is gonna be there. They were at the kickoff at High Falls. We think they're gonna be back and give away life jackets since we're gonna be out at the lake. The Humane Society is gonna have a couple of dogs that can be adopted. A whole lot of stuff going on. So if you can make it out Friday, that's 11 to 12:30 at South Cove County Park. And then, we will, of course, be moving forward with her, and she's gonna start trying to do some story times in August. We usually take August off to give the youth services staff a chance to get their breath after summer reading. But I think since she's new and wants to really get her feet wet and get in it, she's gonna take over and start doing some in at least Walhalla in August. And then I think by September, she will start doing story times at the branches again. So you will see story times advertised again fairly soon in our regular programs. She's also gonna start working, school starts pretty early this year, August 5th. So she's gonna be working with the literacy coaches and the school media specialists when they meet and all, and try to arrange it to where we can do literacy nights at the schools and that kind of thing as we do every year. And she'll also be our representative to First Steps. May not be be able to make it all the meetings, cause I think they meet on Monday and that's when they have story time, so in the interim, with us not having a direct, youth services person, I as the director have stepped in and gone to the meetings, I'll probably still be doing that. But otherwise, our youth services program is about to get, a big boost and take off again, and I think she's gonna do a wonderful job for us. But that's my report.
Your old business, the continuing discussion of the library strategic plan update.
Okay, hopefully I got all of you, but, what I presented to you there, or what I have available is pretty much a one-pager. At our last meeting, I brought to you, we had during our spring in-service, we had staff give comments and even go through and rank various, ideas for, what we thought should go in the strategic plan. And then, after we'd gotten those comments, and I think I showed you all that even up on the board last time, and then, so what we did was synthesize that down into this OCPL, Operations Community Program and Libraries. And these are sort of the strategies that came out of that, at least staff input. And these are sort of, put together into a single, like a one-pager. And what I'd like to do is send this electronically to you all as well, and then let you have time to, look over it, review it, make any comments that you wanna make. Now that we're about to complete summer reading, we wanna see about scheduling or creating a survey of some kind that we can get public input as well, and we'll run that for, say, a month. We'll run it online, have copies in all the branches, and honestly, anywhere else that we can find that will allow us to put something out, so we can capture people who may not always come to the library as well. But we'd like to do a public survey to get that input as well, and then my hope is to, I hope I can do it in September, but I don't know if the turnaround on that'll be good enough, but if not, by the November meeting, my hope is to bring you a final plan. So I wanted you to see this tonight, and I will put this in, send amended background to Ms. Adams and add this into the background, material, so it'll be online. But I want to send you all an electronic copy as well, so that you can look through this and that you can update or, make any changes or suggestions that you want to. And then, we'll go over like the, have a certain amount of time to do that, and then I can send it back out to you all so that you can see everybody's suggestions or whatever. I mean, rather, so y'all don't have to try to email back and forth and do all that kind of thing.
Correct.
We'll do it that way, and then, like I said, the staff, once summer reading is over with, will have a chance to plan and figure out what kind of a public survey we want. We feel like the public survey is gonna be the best way to capture, and get public input. And then, once we have that, and once we have y'all's input, then we'll go back, put it all together into a final plan and have that available, hopefully by September, but if not, by the November meeting to vote on.
Building projects.
Building projects, as we mentioned earlier, the room has now been dedicated, is available for use. It will be scheduled, people just need to ask us, to schedule it just like they would our main meeting room or any of our other meeting rooms in any of our other branches. That now does give us, though, in Walhalla, a main meeting room that has a capacity for 40, 50 or more seated, probably more than that, maybe 60 or 70 standing. It also gives us a 12 to 15 person conference room, as well as 2 8x8 study rooms that we use and that stay very busy for tutoring. That, in addition to our study rooms in Westminster and Seneca. Seneca also has 2 8x8 study rooms that also stay very busy. Again, provide, what I told the folks yesterday. I said, this basically meets a need in our community, provides a space, a neutral space for someone that wants to come in and do a real estate closing, have a small HOA meeting, have a larger community meeting, teach a class. That is, yes, we still check out books, yes, we still have other materials available, yes, we have electronic resources. But honestly, one of our most used resources, space. Neutral space that you don't have to pay for, you don't have to buy a coffee, you don't have to buy anything. Neutral space to be available to hold a small meeting, or have a real estate closing, or meet with a client and you're on neutral ground, you're not at somebody's house, you're not having to find a church, that space is what we need. Down the road, we're even looking at the possibility of doing something similar in our Seneca branch as well. create a small conference room, maybe, you know, in the back. The Seneca parking lot project, we still have not advanced beyond needing to meet with the city of Seneca. That has not been able to happen yet because frankly, Kyle Reed, the head of Roads and Bridges, I mean, with summertime and all the paving and all the stuff going on and everything else, they've been a little busy. But the next step is that we meet with the city of Seneca, make sure that the plans we have to create the parking in the front of the Seneca branch is okay with them. And then we'll be moving forward on that. I don't know that it'll get done by fall, but, you know, at least they'll have a plan in place and council should, hopefully will have approved it by fall.
I think we discussed this, but you're gonna include Building and Grounds Committee on that? Please do,
Will do,
please do.
definitely do.
New business, report the budget and state aid funding for fiscal year 2025 to 2026.
Okay. And you all, trying to remember, I believe in addition to what we normally include in there, what I included was the end of fiscal year 25. So that was June 30, that showed basically that we had spent down everything. There's usually always a tiny bit left, and then in some places, maybe we were a tiny bit over, but that county finance handles that. Some things you just can't help. For instance, the electric bills, they allot us, and then if it's more or less, so that just goes back into the county funds, okay? That amount for professional, for staff mark, that just goes back into county funds, but they did increase me, get to the budget here, they did increase me by $5,000 for professional for this year, so I am at least, I was hoping to raise every part-time salary up. I'm probably not gonna be able to do that right off, but at least I can give a couple people raises, and then as people have been with us a certain length of time, they'll also get, the raise. So you have that, but then I also went ahead and included the local budget, for 25-26, okay? So there is definitely an increase there. If you look at the top part, the top about, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines are, that's sort of like, we don't have any control over that. That's the wage, salary, benefits and all that kind of thing. It did go up though. We believe that there's about a 2% cost of living in there for county employees. Sadly, that does not include my staff mark employees, but that's why I fought so hard to get that professional line item raised. So they will be getting raises, they just probably won't, everybody won't get one as quickly as I would have liked.
Yeah, so I had a question about that. Is it still $11 an hour? Or did
For
that
some,
go up?
yes, for some, they're either at or will be raised to 12. I'll just have to do it incrementally, I won't be able to do everybody at once, I'll have to do employees by length of service.
Yeah.
Is how I'll have to do it, they'll go to 12. They'll go to 12, but that's all that I'm gonna be able to do. You'll note the increase in professional line item from 145 to 150, 5,000 is not gonna be enough to give everybody up to $13, $14 an hour, it's just not. So I have to try to, you know, do it incrementally. I'm not gonna give up on that, but that's what I got this year. And that professional line item is what we use to pay staff mark. And then pretty much as far as the local budget is concerned, you'll note many things stayed the same, a little bit more for equipment maintenance, I think that's just inflation. A little bit more for data processing, slight increases to our operating system, the stuff that we use to check in, check out, all that kind of stuff, the pricing on that went up a little bit. We expect those things, they went up a little bit on that for us as well. We did get increases in building maintenance for Seneca and Westminster for carpet cleaning, which we'll be doing in this fiscal year. We did Walhalla last fiscal year, on Memorial Day. And they didn't really raise anything. You'll notice our books, our periodicals, and our AV is about the same as it was. Various other things, but this does represent a pretty nice increase over last year overall. And then as far as state aid is concerned, we did achieve the $2.75 per capita. So we went up from $197,452.50 to now $216,814.35. Much of that increase between the two, that extra 19,000 is gonna go to books. And since we now have Hoopla, the electronic resource, that is very popular. That's only gonna start taking more of our money, so we've already increased the amount for books and materials. Also anticipating that increase in Hoopla as well as Cloud, that gets to be more popular. That's the ebooks, that gets to be more popular right along. So again, $216,814.35 on state aid. And for the chair, I do have a couple of things that you'll need to sign in the presence of a quorum, so I'll catch you right at the end of the meeting, and we'll get that signed off so that I can send those documents to Columbia. We will get 2 installments this year based on the proviso that governs state aid, so we'll get 2 installments this year. We do have to, as we did last year, certify that we have no items of prurient interest in the children's, youth, and teen sections, which we shall and can do, because we know that that is true. And so I'll grab you with those forms at the end of the actual meeting. That's my report on budget. Any questions on budget for this year?
Well, just one, the salary and wages looks like it went up 70,000 roughly. Is that the 2% you're talking about?
That should cover. But then you figure that's 21 full or part-time employees at various salary levels.
Okay.
It could also be, we didn't know any better. We did get the renewal contract on the salary, or rather, I'm sorry, the grant for Cary. In prior years, it had gone through May 31st. So I had actually spoken to county finance about maybe having the last month of Cary's salary covered in county. We did find out though that for this year, the contract does follow the county or follow the state's fiscal year, so it does go through June 30. So there could also have been a little bit in there anticipating having to pay Cary, which we won't have to do now because her grant covers through June 30. But I think most of that increase that you're seeing is just the 2%. It's just the 2% cost of living adjustment, the COLA.
She's covered through June 26th, not June 27th.
June 30th of 26, that's correct. She's covered one more year. We have her through June of next year, at least on the grant. Hopefully much longer than that, but her grant, the 4th year of the Center for Rural and Primary Health Care, the 4th year, we just got the contract back from them that goes from July 1, so a couple weeks ago, to June 30, 26. That's correct.
Are there other grants out there? Somebody explore that?
I hope so. I hope
I was
so.
gonna say, in case the county
I
would say
will,
no.
I will definitely be talking with, Brittany Martin, who is the county's grant writer.
Just in case.
I think she'll be doing it anyway, because obviously if they can find another way to pay her another
Right.
grant another
Right.
year, they'd much rather do it that way
Right.
than
Okay.
just have to create another position for the
I
library.
didn't realize the
But-
county had a grant.
So, I mean, I think that's like, plan A, and then plan B is hopefully getting the county to fund her if
Pick
not.
up a bit of.
Changes to
Any
the
other
regular.
questions?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Any other questions on budget? Or comments?
All right, proposed changes to the regular meeting agenda.
Okay. And, I mean, as far as county regulations are concerned, we do follow Robert's rules for the most part, but I mean, obviously, we're a little bit more relaxed than, say, county council meetings and all, but I know several of you had spoken about wanting to add board member comments or that kind of thing, so I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that and formally add something, or if you just wanted to, at some point, usually I make up the agenda, I send it to Paul, and we go from there. In the bylaws, it says about the chair makes up the agenda with the assistance of the director, and I mean, if there's, you know, if we wanna change that, if you folks wanna have more input in the agenda, that kind of thing.
I actually did want to talk about that because the chair asked me to make a statement that I didn't make. It just reminded me of that.
Oh.
So it might be nice to have that at the end of me.
Time to do it?
Well, we just wanted to recognize some of our sponsors. I was looking through the whole packet. I'm sure you all saw that. The Cliffs residents not only supported and funded our summer reading up in Salem, but they also volunteered for help at each one of the events. They always had at least one helper there. Park Place Drive-In in Westminster provided 42 ice cream scoops. That's a lot of ice cream. And Trees Upstate, when they did their little Victoria Oak celebration for that anniversary, provided all the participants there that were celebrating with a tree to take home. So I thought we should recognize folks in the community that were actually materially sponsoring the library. So if we did have those comments at the end,
Yeah.
when people forget things, we would be able to get that out.
I think that's good.
Maybe adding a bullet point, you know, in the meeting right before executive session, or maybe right after like, you know, there's the time to do executive session, maybe we should do it before that.
Before.
I think so.
What do you think?
So people can
Yeah.
leave and they still hear the
Yeah.
information.
Well, I'll make a motion that we create a category that says, board member comments, or something to that extent. Is there a better
Yeah.
word for that?
No, I second that. I
Okay.
second
Wait,
that.
second,
Second, Kim.
Kim,
There's discussion? No?
All in favor? And none opposed. Okay, do we have a motion to enter executive session? Second. All in favor? Okay, return from executive session, we discussed release of an employee. Do we have a motion to leave executive session?
I make a motion to leave executive session.
Second,
Second,
all in favor? No opposition, and no action was taken during executive session. And no further business is on the agenda. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor?